days after the presentation here today. So, and then if there's any questions along the way, go ahead and use the Zoom chat feature, and we'll try to answer those along the way, and certainly we'll be able to cover it all during a Q&A at the end. So I think I got everything there. So Laura, it's all yours. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rick, and thank you so much, everyone, for the opportunity today. So, we're not gonna pretty much is wanted to find out what is your purpose of attending the webinar today, and I think that the typical response we get is to understand more what solutions available out there to meet the need of our remote workforce. Now, so today we're going to cover, why go paperless? What is the benefit, the advantage of going paperless? And then what is DocLink? Some of you may have heard of seeing DocLink, others have not. We're also going to give you some examples of how the system can be used in AP automation, because that's the most trouble spot in most organizations, is the handling and automate and streamline the AP process. And then also how DocLink can be also utilized and impact your other departments as well. And we're also going to be sharing some of customer samples of how they use the system and the benefit of going paperless. Now, this report was done earlier this year, like around January or so, where they found that in the last year that the number of people that are working remotely has doubled from the normal. Well, if they were to do the report today, obviously the number have increased dramatically. Okay. So the thing is, what are your challenges with working remotely today? Most of us are still working remotely. Many people say is accessing of our documents and information from anywhere, and also processing of those documents and the routing and approval of those documents. We're actually going to skip the polling question today, but I just wanted to, bring out some of the key highlights of challenges, that customer are encountering today working remotely. And that main area is to able to access our critical information and data, okay, from anywhere. So many of us have been hearing the term digital transformation for several years now. But right now, at this moment is really the need. Why? Is because by trying to allow us to connect you folks, the people, the staff, okay, to the documents and the process, around those documents, and the routing and approval and who needs to process and manage these documents and the data that go along with it. So we're going to show you today, I'm going to talk about DocLink, how we're able to help you to connect the document to the people that need to work with it, and also the process and the data around it. Okay, so with DocLink, think of DocLink as your electronic file cabinets, where all the documents going to be reside and lived in. Now, before and able to access. But before you're able to access the information, we need to capture those documents and information and store it into DocLink. And so we offer different methods of capturing, from scanning to OCR to email import to barcode method and so forth. So we're going to introduce you to use the methods today. But once it's in the system, some documents needs to be routed around for review and approval and action to take upon. And that's the workflow components. Or that, there are electronic forms that we can create as well. And then, but some customers say, what, we want to be disaster preparedness. We wanted to just search and store and search these information. So you can use DocLink as a standalone system and store your documents and have it searchable. And we offer different ways of how you can search for your document, from the DocLink web to logging into the software to the DocLink mobile as well. Then there are some documents that you folks generate in-house that needs to be routed out to your customers and vendors. So we have automated delivery tools, how we can automatically send those documents out along with supplemental documents that goes with those documents. But at the end of the day is the key benefit to DocLink is that our system is fully integrated with your ERP, your Sage to your Dynamics, GP, and Acumatica. Is that we have two-way integration, full code integration. So data is being passed back and forth between the two applications in real time, okay? And so because you have a lot of your vendors and customer information in your ERP, so let's repurpose that data to minimize data entry and to reduce data entry error. Also, is you're able to search for documents within your ERP as well. So you now will have two places or area where you can access your documents in your ERP or within DocLink. But the big plus is that DocLink, being that we are alliance partner with Sage and integrated partner with Dynamics and alliance partner with Acumatica, is that we work with our partners and making sure that the two applications are compatible. So if you decide you upgrade your ERP or you upgrade DocLink, rest assured that the compatibility, the integration are always intact. You will never run into incompatibility issues. Unlike there are many products out there, many document management products out there, and they will tell you, oh yeah, we can integrate with your Sage or your GP, but they neglect to tell you it's through a process called screen scraping. Think of it as integration just at the surface level only instead of at the code level. So when you upgrade your ERP or the document management system, the integration gets broken. So you as a customer will need to pay to redo that integration. And unfortunately, it's cost that you're not going to learn about until you upgrade, and by then it's already too late. So bear that in mind. Okay. All right. So again, I'm just going to kind of skip this, but think about the area department that you're looking to enhance and improve, you know, from accounts payable to, you know, sales order to your contract management and legal department and HR and so forth. Okay. And the reason is because we're trying to learn what area that you're trying to, you know, that you are looking to streamline, because at the end of the day, DocLink can be used in all departments within your organization. Why? The idea is to have one central place to store all your documents instead of your company having multiple silos, documents storing in your C drive, on the network drive, in the ERP, in your HR application. And so it's like having one place to store all of your information. So we're going to give you some examples today. And so we're going to start with accounts payable. Why accounts payable? It's because it's the most trouble spot we hear from customer every day. We can't get the invoice approved on time because Rick is always on the road and he won't approve on the invoice until he actually sees it, and we have to wait till he get back to the office, and by then we're late, or you know, or we're not able to take advantage of early pay discount, or that we're wasting too much staff time doing duplicate data entry, or that, you know, when it's audit time, we're having to spend days or weeks to trying to find all the document requested from our auditors, which is, you know, waste our company staff time. Well, we can help with all of that and more. So here's a quick also research done by the Art and Partners. And I want to just focus the first two items because cost. I don't know if you're aware, but it's costing your company approximately about $15 to process one single invoice. Okay, cost that you don't realize. But by going electronic and paperless, the cost reduced down to about $3 per invoice. And what about the time of processing your invoice from the minute it comes in the mail all the way down to when the payment goes out, you know, out? It takes approximately 17 days, where if you go paperless and automate, it takes about 4 days. There's a whole bunch of other statistics, you know, that was found, but I just want to focus on those two elements because that's the biggest pain to most customer. Now, We've been in business for over 30 years. We have over 4,000 clients worldwide. And so many of our customers uses DocLink for AP automation. And we find that most of the processes are typically the same. But why not take advantage of tools and technology to do many of those mundane labor process? And then, so that you can, and that's how you're able to shorten down the cycle and able to save costs, okay? So in other words, those tasks still remain, but use software, use technology to perform those work effort instead of a human person to do so. So by taking advantage of the technology, here's the process. Invoice comes in, okay? It needs to be routed for approval, right? And then, so it gets routed for approval, and notice the system can track who approved it, what day and what time, and all the notes. So it has a full audit trail. And then also the system allow you to do coding in DocLink as well without the need to have access to the ERP. So we're going to demonstrate that for you, okay? We're gonna show you how we can capture your document that goes into the system. We're going to show you how it gets routed for approval, okay? And then we're going to show you how you can do coding in DocLink. And then once everything's been approved, our system's going to push all that data over to your ERP so you don't have to do that duplicate data entry. And then you process the payment. So we're going to capture a copy of that payment. We're going to store it into DocLink, your electronic file cabinet, and we're going to link that payment to all the associated invoices for you. So that way, you can able to access and search all those documents later on within the ERP or within DocLink. Okay. So the idea is we can monitor your email. So when a vendor emailed the invoices to you, our system's going to grab it and bring it to DocLink. If you have it in hard copy, you're going to have to scan them in. Okay. Now, we also have OCR technology that can actually grab those invoices, read the data on the invoice, do automated matching against your purchase order and against your receiving, okay, and then bring it into the system. So the idea of OCR is it will batch, it will read the data on the invoice for you, so you don't have to do minimizing data entry. It will do automated matching for you if you do purchase order. So AP, you don't have to waste time sitting there doing manual matching, okay? And then, of course, it's stored then into the system, so you don't have to store them one by one. So Igor is going to show you how the OCR works, okay? And once it's in the system, Igor is going to show you how workflow can be initiated, routing it to the different approvers. But once it's been routed, here's what the approver will get notified by email. Okay, so you don't have to be sitting there. You don't have to walk that document around wondering where the invoice at, because you're going to be notified by email. So as long as you have access to your email, here's an example invoice. You can view it directly from your email. You can even approve or deny directly from your email, and you can even add notes as well. You can also approve of your invoice or document by the mobile app or by the web as well. So there are different methods of how you can approve of on your documents. If you ever need to know where anything's at, well, we give you a full audit trail. So here's some example. Oops. Here's some example where we have documents sitting in the CEO for approval, as you can see, okay? We have some invoice sitting at the IT for approval. So you know exactly whose desk it's sitting on and where the bottleneck's at. We have workflow delegation. So if you know you're going to be on vacation for 2 weeks, you can delegate your work to other staff. That way, you don't have to worry about sitting there waiting for you and being delayed or late for payment. And I mentioned also is that we have a full audit trail. So here you know exactly who approved off on the invoice, the day and time, when it was approved, and all the notes that goes along with it. That's a benefit to our workflow. Okay. But once it's been approved, Igor is going to show you how we can push all that data over to your ERP so you don't have to do that duplicate data entry. Once you process the payment, DocLink has the ability to capture a copy of that payment into DocLink along with all the data about that payment. And we're going to link this one payment to all the associated invoices. So that way later on when Mr. Vendor calls up, hey, Rick, I sent you an invoice 2 months ago. What's going on? Rick can go in, type in that invoice number. If it's been paid, Rick will see a payment date and a payment number. Okay. And if Rick has security permission, Rick will see a copy of it. If he has further permission, he can email me a copy of that payment as proof that it's been paid. So with that said, we're going to go dive right in. Igor, I'm going to pass this over to you. So Igor is going to show you OCR, how we can monitor your email server. We're going to grab those invoices in and how we can do automated matching. And then moving forward to workflow. Igor, all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. So what you can see on the screen right now, we'll start from the document registration. And by far, the most popular method these days is the registration from email sources. So if we look at the document right here, it is attached to an email, and we're about to send it to invoices@myaltic.com email address. So whatever is sent to that email address as an attachment to an email is going to be registered and brought into a workflow automatically without user intervention. So this is why this method is probably the best way to deal with this kind of registration. It runs on the background, and the users don't need to do anything. Just make sure that vendors send you emails to that email address. Now, another method of registration is going to be registration from scan sources. So we have a folder on the right here where we're going to scan images, right? And when we scan them in, system is also going to pick them up and bring them into a workflow. So this is what I'm going to do now. I will simulate the scanning process. And this obviously requires users to form batches. So for example, you would need to create batches by just scanning them in, putting the images in the hopper scanner, hitting the scan button, right? And pretty much these are the two main methods of document registration. They typically take place at the same time, right? And pretty much users would create these batches or let's say services on the background are going to bring the documents in. The bottom line, documents will end up in the workflow of OCR, and this is where the next step is going to take place. So this interface is designed specifically to address any kind of exceptions. So this means that users are going to pretty much go here and look through the common queue. So we have two batches right now. That's the one on the top that I just registered, and go over and address any kind of exceptions. So idea here is that if OCR applied the business rules and extracted data of the document, now we need to look and see if there were any issues with that. And typically only those documents are sent here. If there are no business rule violations, documents are going to flow through and will be sent directly to the document management bypassing verification step. So let's do that. Let's check what kind of errors we have in this batch. Whatever we see in this interface is basically happened. We extracted the data already, and users is only called to address any kind of exceptions. So on the left-hand side in the middle right here, we have capture fields, and they're customizable. This means that we can add more fields to the extraction schema, like I did. For example, I included Canadian taxes, as well as we can also point and click on values. So for example, I can select my due date and point and click on the due date and extract it, as you can see. So this is a very powerful tool to reduce the keystrokes, because not only we extract the data out of the box, as you can see, but we also allowing users to point and click on values to extract the data rather than keying from the image. This is a non-PO invoice, and the difference with the PO invoices, we're also conducting matching, we're also applying business rules, and of course, we're extracting the line item details from the table, as you can see. So extraction schema, same as with the non-PO invoices, can be expanded as well. In this example, let's do quickly verification of questionable characters. We don't have any. And now as we extracted the data, we verified and validated it, this one is ready to be sent out and sent to DocLink for the next steps, which are going to be the coding and approval. So let me hit send. And now document left this interface and went into DocLink DMS. Now, as I mentioned, that step is only required for any documents where business rule violation has occurred. So let me now go to DocLink, and from there, we're going to take documents through the review, approval, and coding cycles. So from here, as DocLink is a truly fully enterprise-wide document management system, as you can see, we have very many workflows and life cycles that are built, but today we will be focusing specifically on accounts payable process. And the documents that we just processed are unprocessed. They have been dropped in that status. So let's look what we have in that queue. So I'll hit search, and let's sort this by date. And on the very top of the list right now, we have our invoices that we just submitted. So let's open our non-PO and process it. So the OCR, of course, sent us the index data. It's not a duplicate, as you can see. We also applied that business rule. So what now is required is the creation of a distribution stamp. The distribution stamp for the GL is typically created in two main methods. It's either use of the brand new distribution stamp right there by clicking create a new stamp, or you can use a template. Which way you use depends on the exact scenario. Typically for recurring purchases, a template is used. So in this example, that's a recurring purchase for Apple. So I'm going to use the Apple template. The system populates the header for me, as you can see, based on the data that came from OCR. So what I need to do is the distribution. So I'm going to assign my distribution amounts, my freight, and my taxes, and assign my tax schedule for California and the tax class. That's the taxable. That's it, we're done. So we created the distribution. It is balanced if you look at the bottom. So the system checks that as well, that it's supposed to be balanced and available. And now we're ready to hit stamp to create the distribution stamp and then send the document for approval. Approval can be routed manually when we have ability to send to different users, or it can be automatic when you send it to the pending approval status, and then based on actual properties of a document like the GL codes, total amount, things like that, it's going to be routed. So in this instance, let me send it to the IT manager for approval, and I'll hit send. Now, approval is also very simple because we are going to get an email notification that will encourage the user to look at the the document that requires approval and assign the approval stamp. So this is an email that we've got for IT manager. We got attached accounts payable invoice right there, which also includes the distribution stamp that we just created. So here, if we open this file, we have the first page of the invoice itself. Oh, I did not create the stamp. Okay, so if we have a situation like this, we would open the workflow, and now the manager can, for example, say, okay, so we have the distribution stamp was not created. I'm going to stamp it, creating the distribution stamp, and I'm going to issue my approval by hitting approve and put in the information note that this needs to be paid ASAP. As I forgot to click stamp on the previous step. Ideally, when the IT manager gets the stamp, they can approve and deny from here directly from the document. And now, as we already hear, we can send this document to the approved status right there. Also hit there, send. Now, the document is sent to the approved status, and in instances when a secondary approval is required, another email may be sent to indicate that, okay, based on, let's say, $10,000 threshold, another secondary approval is required for the document. So the DocLink from that perspective is very flexible, and documents that approved are now residing in the queue that's pending export into Sage. So from here, pretty much, if document is in approved status, we are done. The document has been completed. So there are two main methods of import. It's pretty much everything is approved. It's automatically on the background is compiled together and exported to Sage as a batch. Another method is when we need to rush something. And in that case, if we open our Sage screen and go to our modules, we can push the document of our choice manually if something cannot wait till the schedule kicks in. So from here, I have my invoice entry screen, and I can open my distribution in my integrated mode, from where I can specifically select my accounts payable workflow and approved invoices. Let me grab one of the approved that I have from today. So that's my approved invoice from Apple. And this document I can now import. So I can hit, if we open it side by side, just so we can see it. So from here, we put the Sage screen and our our invoice screen right here. So from here, I can easily hit import and send this data to Sage pretty much. So as you can see, it's a very simple and robust process from perspective of the export of data. And in the system right now in Sage, we can easily look for a very specific transaction. So let's look for my invoice from today by date. If we go on the very bottom, this is the invoice 2018 right here, and it has been exported into Sage with all our lines. So in a nutshell, it's a streamlined, completely interconnected process without any interruptions when we are governing the cycle from the moment that you get the document in to the moment it is exported, completely covering the approval cycle as well, including the complete audit trail. And always from the ERP system, we can also use the View Documents button to go to the document that we processed before that we can see on the right-hand side of the screen right now. Lastly, as Laura pointed, when we are working with payments and transactions, if we go back to our check review workflow, for example, we can also see documents side by side with the payment. So when you're conducting the check run, the documents are printed from Sage directly into DocLink, and the end result of this are completely linked documents when we have all three transactions, the transaction is completely recorded. So we have our check right here, we have the packing slip and the invoice that has been used to pay with that check. And if we open now the PO invoice that we have here, so let me enlarge that and look at our index criterias. If I scroll on the very bottom, we can easily see that the check number and the check date for that transaction has been recorded, and it's very easily trackable parameter to determine what kind of, when and how that invoice has been paid. And this is also completely automated in DocLink. So with that said, I will transfer this over back to Laura.
Thank you, Igor. So as you can see with the for accounts payable, let me just for accounts payable is we can help you with minimizing data entry by using our OCR technology and by also pulling data from the ERP to minimize that effort. With the workflow is giving you visibility to the documents and timely approval of your documents, and also is able to access all those documents within Sage or within DocLink from anywhere. Okay, so moving on is here's an example of a Sage client. It's an international company, public company, and so of course they get regular audits. 1 year they were asked, to produce all these documents to justify the $1 million spending. Well, after spending weeks of looking for documents, they couldn't able to produce everything. So they were penalized $110,000. Okay, $110,000 just because they didn't comply with the audit. Well, the CFO was determined never, ever to pay that kind of fee again, because that cost right there paid for the DocLink system multiple times. So they went out looking for a system, end up with DocLink, and today they're not only using it for AP, but they also use DocLink for their expense report and also contracts and storing of their HR files as well. Another example we want to share with you, very popular news, is within the account receivable. Now, within the account receivable, it's just not the AR invoice, but it's all the document and all the process that goes through before you actually invoice, from the quoting stage, all the way down to the payment stage. So the idea is when you create a quote, for example, within your ERP, we can automatically capture a copy of the quote along with all the data about that quote, and we store it into DocLink, your file cabinet. So now when Mr. Customer sends you their purchase order or a contract to proceed with the order, you store that into DocLink and it get linked to the quote. So now you go to the ERP and you create your order acknowledgement. Okay, well, DocLink can automatically send that order acknowledgement out to your customer for you. You create the sales order, and then eventually you create the pick ticket and delivery ticket. Well, what we can do is with those pick ticket, delivery ticket, is the ERP can actually add a barcode to those documents. So you fulfill the order, notes being made, being signed, and now goods is being delivered. Okay. And so Mr. Customer signed that document. And now all you have to do is just batch scan those documents into the system, because our system will read the barcode, and that barcode represents the sales order number or work order number or job number. So we then will look against the ERP based on those order number and pull all the data over, tied to the document, and automatically store it away. So you don't have to do data entry, and it's automatic storage. And then workflow now notify AR to send an invoice to your customer. Well, your customer, when you send out the invoice, they want to see a copy of that signed delivery ticket, or maybe a copy of the purchase order, or whatever document that they request. Well, today you have to get off your chair, go find it, scan it, attach it, and so forth. Well, using DocLink, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is create the AR invoice, and that's it. The system will take over and do the rest. It will store a copy of the AR invoice into DocLink. It will go and look for those, what we call supplemental document, attach it to the AR invoice, and automatically email it out to your customer. Okay. Now, I forgot to tell you, is one of the complaints or we hear about from customer all the time is, well, when the driver delivered the goods, they often, lose the signed delivery ticket. So sometimes we forget to invoice the customer, or we don't know when to invoice because we have to wait till they get back. One of the ways to resolve that issue is the DocLink Mobile, where notice in the DocLink Mobile, you can search for documents. You can in your workflow, you can have a listing of all the orders that you're assigned to that you need to work on, but you can also capture documents as well. So the driver can just take a picture of that signed delivery ticket. It gets uploaded to DocLink, and workflow notify AR to invoice, and that's it. So no more of losing or not getting the signed delivery ticket on time. But like I said, once you create the AR invoice, we will automatically email out the AR invoice to your customer for you. Along with that AR invoice, we can actually attach the signed delivery ticket, a copy of the purchase order, and anything else that the customer wants with that AR invoice. Here's an example of Tyler Technology. And just for the stamp cost alone, okay, they save $11,000 annually. That's excluding the printing, the copying, the staff time folding the envelope, and so forth. So they use, DocLink for the workflow for the routing and approval and processing of the orders, also for the automated delivery of their AR invoice with the supplemental documents. And so that way, you can get your invoice to the customer faster. And so that way you can get paid faster, right? And then of course, it's all the document is stored in DocLink from the quoting stage all the way down to the payment. So, if there's any time for audits, you can access those information quickly. Another big area being used in DocLink today, very popular, is the legal department for contract management. So some customers say, you know what, we just need a system where we can store or execute a contract, to able to manage them, to know when and able to search with those documents. And it's the system to able to send us auto alert to let us know when contract's going to expire or when the retention period is up, so we can purge those documents for compliancy purpose. And of course, searching of those documents. But then you have also customers that have these live working contract. Let's say you dropped it in Word. That contract now needs to be reviewed by Rick, okay? So using our version control feature, Rick can check it out. By checking it out, our system is going to lock that contract so no one else can work on it. Then Rick can make the necessary edits to that contract, which is in Word, then check it back in. When he checks it back in, the system will create version number 2, the date and time and who worked on it, and so on and so on. So it allows you for document collaborations and giving you a full audit trail of all the different history and version of the document. And then if you want to go fully paperless, the system is also integrated with DocuSign electronic signature. So now we can, we can send that document out for signature by DocuSign. They sign it electronically, and then DocuSign will send back the signed executed contract into DocLink. So, like I said, for full audit trail and also timely approval of your contracts. And then for your in-house contract, if you want to reduce data entry and have consistency and everyone using the same format, we can also create templates, okay, electronic template of your contract. So that way we can link to your ERP, pull over the customer or vendor information and autofill the contract as much as possible to help minimize data entry. At the end of the day wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to go into a system and say, hey, find me all the contract anytime the word Alltech is mentioned. And instantly it will bring up all the document with the search result, all document that has the word Alltech contained. You can do Boolean search and or not. Find me all the documents that have contained the word Martin, Luther, but not King. That's all part of the core system. Another big use of our system is HR. Why? Because DocLink is an enterprise solution, so our security has to be very tight and very granular. It is designed to help you comply with HIPAA requirements. So this is why many companies store their HR file for compliancy, but also for disaster preparedness, okay, because all your data is going to be stored in a database. So anything happen, we can restore all those data from your backup. And also for accessibility and searching of those documents. Also is creating forms, your HR forms. Here's an example of a Sage 100 client in Puerto Rico. They are the largest supermarket chain in Puerto Rico, okay? And they actually started with DocLink many years ago, and it's for AP automation. But then they see the power of DocLink, and so they started also using in HR, because when they hire new staff, they have to provide an employee handbook that is 400 pages, okay? So before using DocLink for HR is when employees hire, they, the first day when the employee starts, they give them this copy employee handbook and they pay the employee by the hour to sit there and read the employee handbook. So by using DocLink they now actually have a kiosk in all their supermarket. So people can go in and apply and fill out the form electronically in DocLink, because we can create job application form, any kind of form. They fill it out all electronically. Once they click submit, workflow notify HR that there's a new job application. Then HR go through their hiring process and so forth. But once they have been hired with our automated tool, we automatically email out to the employee the acceptance letter, attached with it is the employee handbook. So they have it electronically. And in that email, there will be a button that says approve or reject. So by clicking the approve button, they acknowledge that they received it and it's been read. So when the employees start the first day, then they're ready to go to work. They're ready to be trained instead of you paying them and by the hour to sit there and read through the handbook. Now, we all know in Puerto Rico, they've been, hurricane, right? And that huge hurricane several years ago, I think, was it Katrina? I forgot which one. But they had a lot of damage to all of their stores. But luckily is when it comes to HR and AP, we were able to restore all of their data because they had backup. So they had zero data loss for those two departments. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough time to store all of their other department documents. So, they don't have record of documents for the other departments. So what I wanted to share with you here is be proactive. Don't wait until a situation arises and then say, oh my gosh, I got to go out and look for a system. Go electronic and store your file, have it secure. Something ever happen, we can restore all those data. Finally, the last portion is expense report. Okay, it's one of my favorite. Why? Because I use it personally. My problem, folks, is that when I travel a lot and I lose my receipt all the time. Okay, and when we bill our customer for a project, they pay for all their expenses. So, and a lot of times is I'm the bottleneck here because I can't find my receipt, or I can't produce my receipt. Well, I don't have that problem anymore because when I travel, I pull out my mobile device. I can search for my client file from anywhere. Any order that comes in waiting for my approval, it sits in my workflow box, but I can also capture documents as well. Now, different customers use DocLink Mobile for many different purposes. So if you're in the field service industry or delivery industry, well, when you deliver the goods, you can take picture of that signed delivery ticket, right? If you're in the service industry, you can go and take the site of what you need to service before and after. So an example like AAA, we all know AAA, right? Well, they started DocLink for AP automation, but then they also started using it for their claim department. So I got into an accident, I go to the web, AAA's web, I fill out the claim form, and then workflow now notify at the claim department. The claim get assigned to an adjuster. The adjuster then out in the field with his mobile in his workflow inbox will have a listing of all the claims that he's assigned to that day. He will go out to the field, inspect the damaged automobile. Using the DocLink mobile, he would take a picture of the damaged automobile. It gets uploaded to DocLink and it gets linked to the claim. For me, I take pictures of my receipt, okay? Automatically, it has the company that I belong to because we have multiple companies. Have my name, the date of the receipt. I just type in the dollar amount of the receipt and select the purpose of the expense, if it's meal or hotel or transportation, whatever it is, because then it will default to my GL code based on my department. And then it gets uploaded into my receipt bucket. At the end of the week or the month, whenever I'm ready to create my expense report, I log in, okay? It will have all my charges with the receipt attached. I just need to add my mileage and it will auto calculate my miles. But when I click create, workflow will automatically route it to my manager who's always on the road. And so he gets notified by email. He can have access to my expense report, approve it off on it while he's on the road. And then workflow notify my AP, and all these data get pushed over to the ERP so we can process the reimbursement. The same tool can be used for also corporate credit card as well, because we create a template of your corporate credit card. We import in your credit card statement. The receipt gets attached to each line item. GL code can be done. Approval can be done, and we push all that data over to the ERP. So how does DocLink, how can it impact your organization? Is that we just gave you just a few examples of how it can be used in your organization. But the big plus is once you own DocLink, you can start in one area, let's say AP or sales order processing, okay? And then I'm going to promise you that other departments are going to see how efficient you are, how fast you're able to access the information, that they are going to want to go paperless as well. So then with DocLink, you can then expand it to other areas because you already have the system. You already have all the tools. So we can take all your department, from your sales to marketing to your IT department, your shipping and receiving department. All your department documents can be stored to the system in one centralized place. Yet anyone from anywhere around the world can access those documents at any time securely based on their permission. Another example I want to give you is when it relates to expense report and AR invoice. Recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've been getting a lot of requests. Is that we bill our customer for the project and for the expenses, and the customer, when we send out the AR invoice, they want us to include a copy of the receipt with the AR invoice. Well, like I said, when I travel, I take pictures of the receipt. It gets stored into the system, and it's been assigned to specific project number or sales order number. So now when AR invoice create that AR invoice for that project or order, it will go and look for the receipt, associated receipt, attach it to the AR invoice, and automatically email it out to the customer. Okay. So and this actually from one of our customers just earlier this week. We were just calling out to our customer to see if they're okay, if there's anything we can do for them. And Live Oak Properties, this came from the controller. So thank God that they had DocLink, because like I said, their AP department, and using it in accounting, is that their business just can continue as is because they can access, they can do coding, pretty much everything remotely from home, and able to get everything out on a timely manner. And so we want you to be a customer testimonial, just like Live Oak Properties. Okay. So like I said, there are many reasons why for some of you are sitting in the webinars today. And at the end of the day is, hopefully we give you some informative information today. If your manager asks you to sit in the presentation, find out why, because there must be a reason. The manager may have seen or heard about DocLink somewhere, or heard about technology being available to help them streamline and automate the process. Or maybe within your department that you're looking for a way how to improve and your department able to access those documents remotely. So if you're ready to learn how we can help your organization, please contact Martin Associates, and we can schedule a discovery call. But at this time, I'm going to pass it back to Rick and open it up for any questions. Rick, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Great job there, Laura and Igor. As usual, I've always liked the comprehensiveness of DocLink. It's all the departments, so you can stay with one platform as you move across. So there are a few questions here that came up. So I guess I'll just go through those. I'm not sure which one of you guys can jump in on which one's appropriate, but there's one here about can prior invoices already paid get added to the software and linked back to the ERP system?
The answer is yes, because it's going to be tied to the vendor number and the invoice number. Okay, so you can store those into DocLink either by drag and drop or scan them in. By typing in a vendor number, it will pull over all the vendor information. By typing in an invoice number, it will pull over all the invoice data. So yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I could see somebody doing that after they got up and running, but then they had all the old paperwork out there.
Yeah, all the legacy documents, right? Yep. Not only moving forward, but stuff that's in your file cabinet.
Yep. I guess this is kind of related. Not sure if it's from the same person. Can I put any document into the DocLink repository or document library? I guess maybe the key thing is here, what different types of documents?
So the answer is yes. You can store any document in any format. So Word file, Excel file, PowerPoint, even video file, audio file, AutoCAD drawings. We have engineering firms storing their AutoCAD into the system. Okay. As in
Okay.
any document, yes, from maybe employee handbook to a job vacation request, to your schematic, test evaluation. We have education institutions storing all their student file records into the system. So any document. It doesn't have to be accounting associated. It could be any document.
All right, great, thank you. Looks like there's one more here. This might have been mentioned, but it's relating to like routing, approval routing. So can you route invoices for approval based on the dollar amount?
Yes.
Yes.
So with workflow, we can initiate it in two ways. One is the automated workflow. By knowing your business rules, like based on dollar amount rule, maybe based on GL code or based on PO number or segment or vendor, whatever your rules are, we can create a workflow template. So the minute the document goes in, we can route it automatically based on those rules. We can even also have escalations. So like I said, we can set up where we're going to give Rick 24 hours to act on it. And because Rick is typically, is the bottleneck there. If he doesn't respond within 24 hours, we're going to send Rick a reminder. And if he still doesn't respond in the next 24 hours, we're going to escalate it to his manager. Okay. So what are your rules?
Yeah.
And then the other option is manual workflow. So you can, some customer don't have rules yet. Maybe they want to walk before they run, so they want to start manually, because getting people to get familiar or used to from a paper to a paperless environment can be challenging. So you want to take one step at a time, and so you start with the manual workflow, and then add automated workflow later on. DocLink is very flexible and very modular and very expandable.
Gotcha. How did you know I was the bottleneck?
I know you too well, Rick.
Well, that's all the questions that were in the chat there. So
let me add one more. This is a very popular question we get all the time is, where does the system, where does it store? Where's the database? So DocLink is available in different flavors, okay? We can install it on your server, on your environment. It can also be installed on a private cloud hosting server as well. For the today, at the moment, because it's of demand, for Acumatica clients, it also can be on DocLink Cloud as well, because Acumatica offer Acumatica Cloud. Okay. We are in the process of working for DocLink Cloud for GP or dynamic clients as well, because D365 is on the cloud. So we have DocLink Cloud for D365 already. Okay, GP and SL, some others, like I said, hasn't been much of a demand, but if there is, we definitely can make it available. Also is DocLink can be purchased in different ways, where it could be perpetual. So in other words, it's a one-time purchase of the software and you own it for life. Okay, the only recurring cost is the annual maintenance support. We also have available subscription option as well. Okay, it's kind of like, think of it as a lease, pay as you go. Gotcha. And then for Acumatica, we also have like I said, the DocLink Cloud offering.
Gotcha. There was one, yeah, thanks. That was a good, because I know those options have changed over the years, and we have to account for cloud and subscription and all that. There's one more question here. Is there a limit to the GL coding or companies in the ERP that you're using in your ERP when you're using DocLink?
Excellent question. The answer is no, there is no limit. So if within your ERP, if you have one company or 100 companies, we can configure all of that in DocLink. It's one system to accommodate all those companies, okay? As for GL code, you can have as many lines of GL code in one particular invoice as you wish. No limit. Also is If you buy the same thing from the same vendor all the time and you have the GL code set up as a default in your ERP, when we pull over the vendor information, we will pull over the default GL code as well to help
Right, yeah.
minimize data entry.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we got question-wise. So guess we'll respect everybody's time here. Perfect timing. It's like you've done this before, Laura.
Many times.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for your attention and joining us this afternoon. Hopefully you learned a lot about Alltech and DocLink. Great product. So everybody stay safe out there, and we'll be following up with the link for the recorded presentation. So everybody have a good day. Thanks again, Laura and Igor.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
Martin
All right.
Associates and everybody.
Great. Thanks, Laura.
Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.